he had a gun trafficking investigation called Operation Thor. And Operation Thor was intended to put together arms trafficking investigations from multiple states, which is surprisingly rare. Normally it's we got this guy, but when they put it together, they realized like this is the same network.
Yeah,
and it's all flowing into this, this guy Jesus, and one of their clients, according to the agents I spoke with, it was the Delta Squad, which is a hit squad in CJNG, and one that reports directly to El Mencho, according to Mexican federal police. There are a few names in the case file, and I just went really hard on social media and the internet and really trying to put together, well, what does this look like in Wisconsin? And so I kind of started piecing together bit by bit, and then I ended up going there, and that was a real unlock.
Yeah, how does Racine, Wisconsin become the key hub for drug trafficking for the CJNG cartel? Like, how did that happen?
I know. I mean, that's the reason why I did this story. I had come in wanting to do a story about gun trafficking to Mexico because it is a really important part of the story between the United States and Mexico. You can't really disentangle the two countries in general, but definitely guns and drugs are a big part of that relationship. So I knew I wanted to do something on gun trafficking. But as you mentioned, it's hard. Everyone thinks they know this story. I thought I knew this story. And I was just sort of feeling a little bit stuck. Like, no one needs to read a story about guns moving from Texas to a cartel in Mexico. But when I heard the 50 cal and I heard Racine, Wisconsin, I had the same reaction as you. It's in the heartland of America. It sort of goes against the general trend of firearms trafficking in Mexico, which is the border states. So that piqued my interest. And then honestly, the real unlock of what the connection was when I walked up to one of the defendants in the case. His name is Victor Cobian. I waited outside of his house until I saw him there. And one Sunday morning, he was working on his boat. And I went up and asked him how he knew Jesus Cisneros, who was named in the case and believed to have run that cell, as well as at least a dozen other across the United States. And he just said, "Oh, he's my cousin." So, and it's a, Racine, because of its industry, so agriculture and factories, it attracted a lot of migration in the 1970s from Mexico. And Victor's parents had come from Jalisco. His mom is incredibly hardworking. She worked at a garment factory, and I believe his dad worked in the agriculture fields. They ended up opening a bar, And like every day that I was in Racine, I would go by the bar. His mom would be there working for like 14 hours a day, That's how the family came. And then these two cousins, Elias and Oswaldo, who are named as being the first point of contact with Jesus in Jalisco, they came much later to work construction jobs in Racine. And then they would recruit friends and family members to purchase guns and then give them to them, and they would traffic them over the border.
Ew, this is crazy. How did the ATF agents first uncover the connection between Racine and the CJNG?
So there was this crazy brazen attack outside of a Japanese restaurant that attacked the former attorney general of Jalisco. And broad daylight, I think like two kids selling candy were injured. They set a bus on fire while they were trying to escape. It was a big thing in Jalisco. And in the Mexican police's search for the assailants in that attack, they came across this house. It's like across from a cemetery. I was able to get my hand on some handwritten federal police notes where they talk about this raid in detail. So they gather outside this house at like 4 a.m. All these federal agents, they creep through the garage. They go upstairs, and one of the guys tries to escape, and they basically find this massive weapons warehouse. And so it was originally triggered by this attack, but then they decided, they traced using ATF technology. Mexico and the United States government has tracing. And I forget how many of the guns, but the majority of the guns were traced back to the United States. And one of them was this Barrett 50 cal from Racine, Wisconsin. And that really piqued, just like it piqued your ears, just as like it piqued my ears. There was a lot from Texas and Arizona, but the ATF agent who traced the gun, his name's Tim Sloan. He was like, wait, what? And I mean, I think that there's something interesting here because they'll send the traces to the offices where the guns come from. And I mean, for this case, one does have to give credit to the ATF agents in Racine because they took that trace, and instead of just kind of doing a courtesy visit to the store where it was bought, they really went all in on an investigation into all over Racine, not just the store that they bought it from.
Yeah. This case was considered to be the most prolific CJNG firearms trafficking network ever discovered. What made it that?
Because from that one gun, it gets traced to Racine. And, I came across just the Racine case. So I was busy putting together this, and then another cell came up in my reporting in Las Vegas. And that also piqued my interest because they were buying really expensive, high powered weapons there as well. And Victor, he mentioned to me that he knew the guy who was named in the ATF documents as running, the ring in Las Vegas. So I was looking into Las Vegas, and then something comes up in Portland, and there is a little. So I did some more digging, got in touch with a couple of sources, and it turned out that Jesus was believed to have started in Wisconsin. There was a family connection there. And then he had at least a dozen cells across the United States into, as far as like North Carolina, for instance. So yeah,
sorry.
so that was like, so because they got that one gun in Guadalajara, and because the Racine agents did such an extensive job, they were able to put together the pieces like, oh, this guy is running operations across the country. And that's where, this guy, he no longer works with ATF. His name's Chris Demlin. He had a gun trafficking investigation called Operation Thor. And Operation Thor was intended to put together arms trafficking investigations from multiple states, which is surprisingly rare. Normally it's we got this guy, but when they put it together, they realize like this is the same network.
Yeah,
And it's all flowing into this, this guy Jesus, and one of their clients, according to the agents I spoke with, it was the Delta Squad, which is a hit squad in CJNG, and one that reports directly to El Mencho, according to Mexican federal police.
So this is a very intricate, business model that they've set up across the nation.